on vibrate or turn them off, like I'm doing right now. Appeals, if you disagree with any thing this commission makes a decision on, you have the right to appeal it to the council. There are appeal cards over on the right, over to my right on the railing there. Speaker cards, if you wish to speak on any item, please complete one of those, turn it into staff, and they'll get it up here to us. Each side will have 10 minutes to speak on each item with a 5-minute rebuttal. And please do not stay in the chambers or in the lobby area out there to discuss anything as the sound comes back into the area. Please stand for the invocation by Mr. Randolph.
Gracious Father, we once again come to you, bow down heads and lift his heart to thank you for all the blessings you bestowed on our lives. You watched over us this day, kept us from all hurt, harm, and danger. We thank you for this gorgeous weather and every member that represents this commission, and we thank you for our parish government. We thank you for our citizens that's before us as well. And all these blessings we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Hines, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. In your packets, you had a copy of the minutes from the April 1st meeting. Hopefully you had an opportunity to review them. Are there any corrections that need to be made? Okay, I'll accept. We have a motion by Mr. Lauren to approve, seconded by Mr. Hines. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Staff, do we have any cases that need to be postponed?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On page number 2, the text change, ZC 1405-037, staff would like to request it postpone indefinitely as it needs to be reviewed by the legal department.
Okay, any others? Any others?
And also, number 7, ZC 1405-039, and the representative is here in the audience to answer any questions that you may have.
Say again, Helen, I missed the last one.
I said the representative for the case is here in the audience to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, but they're requesting it to be postponed? Okay, thank you. All right, that's all of them? I will accept the motion to postpone zoning case 14-05-037 indefinitely.
So
moved by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Randolph. Please vote. Pug, turn your light off.
No, I want to mention something in a minute.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. And staff, per the petitioner's request on zoning case 14-05-039, request postponing until next month. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think Pug had something on this.
No.
No? I'd like to hear from the petitioner as to why they want to postpone it.
Okay.
Mr. Duvick should be in the audience if I'm not mistaken.
Pardon?
Mr. Duvick should be in the audience if I'm not mistaken.
I don't see anybody. All right, so we don't have anybody here, Bill, so.
He sent a letter, making the request. He told me he was gonna come, but maybe
Move to
something came
postpone.
up.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Matthews to postpone, seconded by Mr. Davis. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, back to page 1, item 1, zoning case.
Dave?
Never mind, excuse me.
Dave,
Yes, sir.
if I could, we've got a special request tonight. Item number 3 on the agenda. the petitioner has a personal problem and would like to have that moved up if at all possible.
It's a motion. I'll second that motion. It's a motion.
Okay,
I make a motion to move it up.
motion to, move up item 3, which is zoning case 14-05-036. Motion by, Pug, seconded by Martha. Please vote on moving it up. Motion carries. All right, zoning case 14-05-036, existing zoning is A4, single-family residential. Proposed zoning is A4A, single-family residential. It's 38,203 square feet. Petitioner's Trudy Martin, the owner's Trudy Martin. Parcel located on the northeast corner of Arlene Street and Foy Street, being a portion of Square 140, Town of Mandeville, Ward 4, District 10. Staff?
The site is abutting HC2 on the south side of Orleans Street, and single-family residences develop on 50-foot wide lots on the east side of the site. However, the north and west sides of the site along Foy Street are developed with single-family residences on lots of 90-foot wide or larger. Staff is not completely opposed to the request, but remain concerned by the fact that the A4A would allow the creation of 4 lots. So at this time, staff would like to recommend denial.
Thank you. Ms. Martin, are you here in the?
I am here.
Okay. Come to the mic and let us hear a little bit from you on this case as to why you think it needs to go to A4A.
We actually want to break it up into 3 lots, all facing Foy. And we actually had an affidavit that was turned into the attorney today, Mr. Han, or actually, it might have been Friday, I'm not sure, indicating a change in covenant that it can only be broken up into 3 lots, which has been filed with the courthouse. Mr. Han? did
That's
you-
correct. I received it, and it is stamped that it was filed with the clerk of court.
So,
Okay.
I know there was hesitancy about the possibility if you moved it from A4 to A4A, that it could then be broken up into 4 lots, but we're just looking at the 3 lots, and we restricted it to the 3 lots.
All right. Helen, do we actually need to take any action if? to take it
His
to
request
A4?
remains the same to be rezoned to A4A. The
Okay.
request remains the same.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, do you have anything else, sir?
No, sir, that's all.
All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this particular case? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Matthews.
Helen, if zoned A4, can they get 3 lots out of it?
No, no,
It
sir.
has to be A4A for them, even 3 lots, not 4 lots.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Casabon?
I'll make a motion to approve, since 4 would not be conducive to that area, but 3 would.
All right, motion by Ms. Casabon, seconded by Mr. Willie. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries, thank you. All right, item 1, zoning case 14-05-033. The existing zoning is A4, single-family residential. Proposed zoning A4, single-family residential and MHO, manufactured housing overlay. It's 11,000 square feet. The petitioner is Rita Westmoreland. The owner is Rita Westmoreland. Parcel located on the west side of Oak Avenue, south of Sycamore Avenue, being lots 43, 44, 45, and 46, Square 6, Beverly Hills subdivision, Ward 8, District 14. Staff?
The 2025 Future Land Use Plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses, including manufactured homes. Staff has no objections to the request, considering that the area is developed with a mix of stick-built homes and manufactured homes, and recommends approval.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Westmoreland, are you in the audience? Okay, would you come to the mic, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Ron, you have a, all right, any of the commissioners have any comments for, Ms. Westmoreland? Do you have any comments that you'd like to make to the commission?
No, just that I have just recently retired, and I live in Mississippi. I'm moving here, and I just wanted to be able to live in a place where I had no mortgage, and I would be able to move a mobile home in and do that.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this case? I'll close the floor to the public, bring back to the commission. Mr. Matthews.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Westmoreland, are you planning to put one mobile home or one manufactured home on the property?
On two of the lots, we do plan on, I plan on putting one mobile home. I would like to reserve the right to put another in if my mother needs to come and live with me.
Okay, so you've got actually 4 lots,
Yes, sir.
okay? And you want to put the mobile home overlay on all 4 of those lots?
Towards, more towards just the two.
Ooh, okay, which 2? Because you got 43, 44, 45, and 46.
She wants to put it on 50-foot frontages of what the subdivision requires.
Come to the mic so that we get it recorded.
I'm sorry, I'm Steve McCarter. I'm helping her out through this. She just wants to reserve the right for, she wants to put the mobile home, I don't have the paper in front of me, which numbers are which. On 45 and 46, and she wants to reserve the rights for 43 and 44.
Okay, we can grant her 45 and 46, and then if later on she decides she wants to put a mobile home on 43 and 44, she can come back and ask for that, as far as I'm concerned. I'd move to grant the mobile home overlay on lots 45 and 46 with the understanding that you're going to comply with all of the requirements for skirting and all that stuff you have to do with the mobile home in the parish. That's my motion.
Mr. Chairman, before that, could we speak on this, somebody else, before the motion's made?
Well, you can always discuss after the motion's made, okay?
Okay,
And we
go
have a
ahead.
motion by Mr. Matthews. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Davis. All right, discussion.
Yes, sir. I don't understand why we would do it on 45 and 46 and not put an overlay on the other 2 lots, because this is an area where there's a lot of mobile homes, there's a lot of stick-built homes. Why would you want to impose the cost of these people coming back to us again and doing it the second time? I'd like to amend the motion to cover all 4 lots.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Hines to amend Mr. Matthews' motion to include lots 43, 44, and 45. Do I hear a second?
And 46.
Seconded by Mr. Willie. Okay, we're going to vote on the,
I've got a comment before we vote.
yes, sir.
It appears to me that she only wants 45 and 46. She may or may not in the future want 43 and 44. We will be putting a mobile home overlay on something that she may decide to sell and wouldn't want a mobile home overlay on it. It just seems to me we're putting a larger mobile home overlay than we need, and I don't think it's a good idea to put larger mobile home overlays or manufactured housing overlays, let's get the term right, than we actually need.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, I see the staff has no objection to the request for all 4 lots, and I concur that it would be an added expense in the
Okay, well,
event. that
we've
she-
got a motion and a second to amend Mr. Matthews' motion of lots 45 and 46 by Mr. Hines to amend Bill's motion to lots 43, 44, 45, and 46. That's what's on the floor right now.
Okay.
Okay? And if there's no further discussion on that motion, then I'll request that we vote on it. So please vote. Motion carries, 7 yeas, 3 nay. So, the motion, now is for all 4 lots to, receive the, manufactured housing overlay. All right, so we need to vote. No, we just did that. Just did that. Never mind. All right, so the MHO is granted on lots,
No, you gotta move on.
Not yet.
got
We gotta move on the original motion.
okay, all right,
Right.
as amended, okay, all right. Do I have a motion?
We had a motion.
All right,
You just gotta take a vote.
all right, so we do need a vote, all right. Please vote on going to manufactured housing overlay on lots 43, 44, 45, and 46.
No, a motion.
As amended.
As amended. Motion carries 9-1. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, item 2, zoning case 1405-034, existing zoning's HC1, proposed zoning's HC2, highway commercial district, it's 3.98 acres. The petitioner is Danielle and Diane Hoff, owner Danielle and Diane Hoff, parcel located on the south side of Louisiana 22, west of Trepanier Road, across from Bell Point Drive, being 1519 Louisiana Highway 22 West, Ward 1, District 4. Staff?
Staff feel that there's no compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that the site is surrounded by HC1 zoning on the north, east, and west sides. And at this time, staff would like to recommend denial.
Thank you. All right. the
Well,
Hoff-
first of all, I think there's an injustice been done to me.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Daniel Huff, and this is Diane Huff, my wife.
Okay?
I purchased this land. This land was zone C2 back in 1982, C2 property. I bought the property in 1997. I built a shopping strip in 1999. The building's been sitting out there for 15 years. On the other side of the lot, I built the Dollar General in 2004. So these properties, these buildings have been sitting on this piece of property that's over 30 years old, C2, okay? Then y'all decided to change the zoning, and you took C2 and you made it C1. I don't know if y'all familiar with the property out there, but I got it right here. And then y'all wrote me a letter last week saying that y'all denied my request of changing it back to C2 because they got a subdivision across the street, which is called Bell Point. There's 30 homes in there. And they said because it's a residential neighborhood, but right across the street, y'all made C2 property, which was rural. You made it C2, and you allowed Liberty Self-Storage to come in. And then on the side of that, St. Tammany Parish Hospital. You made that too, right on the side of Bell Point. So I can't understand why you made that C2 and then rejected my C2, which is right across the street. Not only did you do that, but then you went down to Gus Island, which has got about 300 homes and 3 subdivisions in the front. One is which is 16 fourplexes on the right-hand side, which is called the Village. On the left-hand side is called Forest, and right behind the Village, there's single homes, and there. It's over 300 homes right there, and yet you made both of those, which was ruled in the front, you made those C2. And so, if I'm being denied because there's a subdivision that it started developing in 2008, a home wasn't put in there until about 2011. And my property's been standing there for 15 years. And now y'all going to deny me, take it from C2 and make it C1. I think that's unfair.
And you need to understand that that is a staff recommendation. That does not necessarily mean that this commission has to follow the staff recommendation, okay? And that's what we're here for tonight, is to hear your request,
Okay?
okay? And if you have anything else to tell this commission right now, say it, and let's see if there's anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak on this.
Okay, well, after Hurricane Katrina, St. Tammany Parish Library moved into my building. I accommodated them for 6 years. after the hurricane, Captain Mike Stein with the fire department, engine number 2, moved in my building for 6 years. In my building, I also had Scott and Christine. They had an animal hospital. They x-rayed, they operated, they boarded dogs, and they also groomed dogs. I didn't find out that this zoning was changed until February of this year, when I had a tenant that came to me. She wanted to take the library spot, which is a 2,400 square foot building, and she wanted to groom and board dogs. Well, she came to see Miss Helen about getting occupational license. She says, it's been changed to C1. I didn't know nothing about it. So she came back to me, she says, I can't use your spot because you got C1. I said, I don't have C1, it's C2. Somebody made a mistake somewhere. So anyway, I said, go back down there and talk to Helen. I said, I think you got something wrong. So she went back to Helen, and she came back. She says, no, you're wrong. They changed it. So with that, I went down to see Helen, and I signed a petition to come see y'all. So that's where I am today.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item?
Paid to
Either for or against?
$750.
I had 2 of these, yeah.
All right, I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, I feel like this is one of those circumstances in which if something was changed, but it was already in place when those people, when we built the subdivision across the street, it was already, in some capacity, it was a commercial venture and stuff. And I'm going to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, seconded by Mr. Hines. All right, Mr. Matthews.
Well, first of all, this property is not zone C2, it's zone highway commercial 1. The whole designation of C2 has been changed from C2 to highway commercial 1 and highway commercial 2.
Okay.
Hold on,
Listen.
hold on. All of the items, or most all of the items that are in the retail service uses in C2 are now in HC1. Okay, so most of the things you could do in C2 are now included in HC1.
Okay, well, can I
Hold
board
on,
dogs?
hold on,
Wait,
hold on.
listen.
The conditional uses, these are the things that we looked at very hard and to make a change or to allow and have special conditions. Those are the things that were in C2 as conditional uses. Almost all of those things are now in HC2. So your property still basically has the same designation for the things that you could do of right in C2. The things that you had to come and ask for special permission and get special conditions, those are the things that are in HC2. To me, this property is properly HC1. We looked at it, well, before that, the staff looked at all of that property when we did the comprehensive rezoning. This commission looked at all that property. Matter of fact, all the property in the parish. And we looked at it and we agreed that that should be HC1. That then went to the council. The council looked at it and said, that's right, that should all be HC1. And you can do all those things that you could do of right in the old C2. So
in other
this
words-
didn't just pop up. This happened, 4 years ago now? 5 years ago now? And I believe that the correct designation for that property is HC1. We didn't take a piece of property and change it from commercial to residential. We just gave it the proper designation when we split C2 into two classifications. And to me, we picked the right one.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Davis.
Helen, currently, everything's in compliance with Highway Commercial 1 that's on the property? So this is not a problem with trying to be in compliance, is that correct?
Correct, as far as I know, yes.
And that's obviously one of the reasons why you suggested tonight.
Yes, and it is all surrounded, across the street, it's HC1, as well as on each side of the property, it's on HC1.
And with the gentleman saying he's trying to rent this, I guess, other space for animal care, but that's not even covered in AC1, correct?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, we was trying to rent it to allow for kennel,
A kennel,
and kennel is not permitted under HC1.
right. Is it permitted under AC2?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Was it permitted under C1 before?
If
I don't
I'm not
believe so.
mistaken, it was not. It was only
No.
permitted under
Okay.
C2.
All right, thank
No,
you.
you can't say, well, I disagree because I had a dog clinic in it before. They operated, they groomed dogs, and they boarded dogs in C2 back there in 2002 to 2007. Till she
Okay,
moved out. So it's almost like having, I also had another gentleman who wanted to open a small Mexican place. And he said, one of the things he said, can I serve daiquiris, not daiquiris, but margaritas at the table? I said, well, now that I know that the property's been changed to C1, no, you can't do it. Am I right or wrong now? I know in C2, you can serve a mixed drink at a table. Now, can I do it now?
Helen?
I mean, this is what I bought the property for, C2. I have
Okay.
never bought C1.
She's
I
look-
understand you changed it, but in
She's looking
C2
at the
now,
ordinance right now.
C2 has changed a lot, so I can't do some things, certain
She's
things.
looking at the ordinance now.
Yes, you can have a restaurant with a lounge.
Yeah,
It is
under-
permitted under HC1. You can have a restaurant with a lounge under HC1.
Under HC1.
But I
Okay.
can't have dog and boarding.
Mr. Hines? Mark?
No.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve going from HC1 to HC2. Any further discussion?
Do we know what HC2 is going to allow? HC2 is going to allow an awful lot. A bank, convenience stores, drive-in restaurants, liquor stores, a lodging of 100 rooms, outdoor storage yards. All of those things are included in HC2. And by doing this, we're opening up that piece of property to all of those things which are really not appropriate in that area.
Okay, you said it's not appropriate, but yet you
Wait a
did,
minute.
you did Liberty, which is self-storage. Okay,
Mr.
it's got
Chairman.
over 100 units over there,
Mr. Chairman, as parliamentarian, I would call for order.
okay?
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor.
And what-
Okay. Mr. Matthews' comment was just explaining to the public and you what was allowed in HC2. And he made a comment that he doesn't agree with that. And some of them, very honestly, are pretty intense. But we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve going to HC2,
Okay.
okay? Regardless of what the staff said, which their recommendation was to deny,
But what,
okay?
well,
We don't need any more discussion right now, okay?
Tell him you don't want alcohol.
Ms. Casabon?
We
Well,
don't want liquor.
I'm basing
It's
this
not liquor,
on,
you can
yes,
have
we
liquor.
do have subdivision, next door, but I thought our whole purpose was to keep people from traveling on the highways so far if they can find things within their neighborhood or as close to their neighborhood as they can, whether it is some of the things that you named. I myself got a wonderful little Dollar General. I don't have to travel 25 to go into town to the grocery store now. So that's what I'm thinking, that with this commercial area, and it is on a highway, that there would be some things that the people in that area could use.
Okay, all right, thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the HC2 designation. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, you said the motion was to
Approve the HC2.
the HC2, okay.
Motion carries 7-3. Thank you.
One.
I'm one. Oh, thank you.
All right, next item is item 6,
Thank you
page
so
2.
much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Existing zoning A1 suburban district, proposed zoning A1A. It's 11.466 acres. This comes to us by a parish council motion of 3-3. Location, parcel located on the southwest corner of Section Road and King Road, Ward 2, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. Staff sees no compelling reason to increase the density in the area, considering that all abutting parcels are zoned A1. Staff recommends denial.
Thank you. Let's see, this is, comes to us from Parish Council motion. Is anyone here in the audience on this particular item?
Mr. Chairman, can I make a correction? I think that's District 2 instead of District 6.
District what?
It says District 6 on the.
It is District 2. It is a mistake. It is just District 2.
It's District 2. The,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right, well, you have, that's 40, okay. All right, anyone in the audience on zoning case 14-05-038? Yes, sir. Please step forward and state your name and address.
I'm Scott Biggers, just here to help out my father-in-law and uncle over there who inherited this property. And during the inheritance, the land divided up smaller than, the 5-acre zoning. And in order for them to go through with the inheritance, it needed to be rezoned to the 3 acres.
All right, thank you.
And
Is
it
there
is,
a-
it is consistent with what's there now. I know what's zoned there now is 5 acres, but it's very consistent with what's there in that area. I'm very familiar with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, this is, he is correct that this is the family inheritance, but it is a lot of acres that is under the 2, even though we have it the 5. And we have been doing this, if they are trying to split it up, that a little over 3 acres would be
Okay.
the same in that
yeah,
area.
I'll second.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second to approve. Mr. Davis?
Yes, for the gentleman who was just up here. So you intend on splitting this in 3 equal parcels, is that correct?
Well, not necessarily, but it's, my father-in-law actually purchased one of the pieces of property from a brother, so it's gonna be, more or less in thirds, not fourths, if that kind of makes sense.
But there'll be a total of 3 parcels on this property? 3
Yes.
separate parcels?
Yes.
And what are the sizes of those 3 parcels?
It would be, basically, or ultimately, 11-point-something acres divided by 3.
Okay, so, but they each will be at least 3 acres?
Or actually, I'm sorry, one of them will be a little bit different size because of the corners. If you can see the survey, they got acres that were sold years ago. So you're dealing with 10 acres divided by 3, but then one of those goes with one of the acre, and then what's left of the other goes into 2.
Okay, but none of the properties will be less than 3 acres?
Not on the inherited portions, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Matthews?
Hold on, I'm confused. The plat we have shows in bold 8.211 acres and 3.255 acres.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then in each corner, there is a 1-acre parcel. What are those?
Those acres were sold, like I say, decades ago from Mr. and Mrs. McLean to their sons, and I guess in the 70s and in the 60s. So the property that actually got divided up are the portions of property that are outside of that acre, those corners.
Okay, so what we're looking at is not a rectangle, but they're the two corners are cut out.
That's correct.
Okay, so one of the pieces, so you're gonna divide this into 2 parcels or 3 parcels?
It will be in 3 parcels.
Okay, so the plat we have isn't correct as to what you're planning on dividing it. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Mr. Matthews, could you say that again?
Okay, yeah, you were getting something from the gallery there. That's all right. The plat we have showing 2 parcels is not correct. That's not what you're trying to do, this plat.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Matthews?
Yes,
When you're looking at the top, the 3.255 acres, this is the same owner.
yeah.
It's 2.4 and the 1 acre, which is gonna make it legal by making it A1A. And then the 8.2 acres will be divided. I don't know if it's gonna be directly into 4 acres exactly, but the 8.2 acres will be divided in 2, so
Okay,
it
so
will be
then-
a total of 3 parcels
okay,
total.
so the northern portion, actually, the ownership will work out to 4.255 acres. No?
No.
One shaking your head yes,
The-
one shaking
the-
your head no.
So
The 3.255 acres will be 1 parcel, and then the 8.2 acre will be divided into,
That's what I
which
asked.
will make a total of 3 parcels.
But,
That's what I was trying
but
to,
what you see on the map is what we're trying to actually do right now. I mean, this is what's being inherited. But it would give the ability later to divide that larger parcel.
all right, what we're looking at here is, we're gonna take that whole piece of property and rezone it if we agree with what you want. So we're not gonna do 1 parcel or another, we're doing the whole thing.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Anything
Okay.
else, Bill? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve zoning case 14-05-038. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries, thank you. All right, next item was postponed. Item 8 is zoning case 05-040, NC2, Indoor Retail and Service District, and A2 Suburban District. Proposed zonings, NC2, Indoor Retail and Service District, A2 Suburban District, and RO Rural Overlay. It's 4.87 acres. Petitioner's Thomas Dutel. The owner is Optical Tech Corporation, partial located on the north side of US 190, on the south side of Jackson Street, east of Nell Road, being 26095 US Highway 190, Ward 7, District 7. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Considering the semi-rural nature of the area, staff has no objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. We have, Mr. Dutel, you're the petitioner. Would you like to have any comments to the commission before we move forward on this thing?
Just would like to use. My name is Thomas Dutel. I represent Optical Tech Corporation, and I would like to use the property for agricultural purposes.
Okay. All right. And that's all you're looking to do is just use it as agricultural?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Well, we have a couple other folks. Anyone else wish to speak for this? Okay. We have 2 folks that wish to speak against. Please come forward. Ms. Cousin and Ms. Ziegler.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for hearing me out. My name is Sharon Kuzan. I live in St. Tammany Parish. I was born and raised here. Love St. Tammany Parish. It's peaceful, it's quiet. I like the residential family surroundings. This gentleman came from New Orleans and thought he can come in the country and just put anything up. He's tried several different things. I have pictures here I would like you to view to see what this looks like. It's not pretty at all. It's not a pretty sight. He throws up anything next to a house that is well-groomed. The picture is also in that of the home in Lacombe. The people in the area do not want this to be changed. He thought he could already do this. He already started, as you can see from the pictures, and then he found out he couldn't do this. I'm begging you, please reconsider what he's doing to our St. Tammany Parish and the surroundings and the beautification of our parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ziegler?
I'm Doris Ziegler. I live next door to Mr. Dutel's property. We was here once before. We had this problem. When he bought this 5 acres, he's got 3 acres, front part is on commercial. Then he's got the back end where I live on Jackson is residential. Now he's trying to change the whole thing into commercial. I've been living there since 1973. My home is directly next to his. He's built this building, I guess about 15 to 20 feet from my property. And he put it down with piling. And my house trembled when he did it. We came to court or to the hearing, and that was settled. Now we at it again. I understand he wanted board horses. But we have a nice resident. I've been living there all this time. And if you give him permission to change the zoning, who's to say that he won't put up a bar or a bar room or whatever, nightclub? Who's to say what's going to be changed in that area once it's done? Please don't let it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who wish to speak against? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Matthews.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dutel? When you say you're looking at this for agricultural purposes, exactly what type of agricultural purposes? Because there are a bunch of different things, including dirt hauling equipment, that would be allowed with a rural overlay. Can you tell me what you're actually looking to do?
Well, whatever's profitable.
Okay, so you might wind up with a dirt hauling equipment storage on a piece of property?
If I'm not mistaken, there's a dirt hauling equipment operator across the street on Jackson.
I've just asked you a question.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow it, sir.
My question was, we might wind up with a dirt hauling equipment storage and operation on this piece of property if you got a rural overlay.
If the dirt hauling were profitable, it would go in and out on the front of the property, not the rear of the property.
But you could put a dirt hauling, that's what we might wind up with. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Yes, sir.
This property has on most of it, on 2 sides, A2, and on the north side, A4. There's a little bit of NC2 on either side in the front, I'd say probably an acre. Then there's NC2 right across from it. It just seems like the agricultural uses, a horse farm, dirt hauling equipment is probably improper for this piece of property. I'd make a motion to deny.
We have a motion by Mr. Matthews to deny. Do I
May
have
I-
a second?
May I have a rebuttal?
Just a moment. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I have a second. I'd like to
Seconded by
discuss,
Mr. Davis.
but I'd like to discuss something first.
Okay?
Mr. Dutel, this is the property that has that screened-in area in the front, and it was designed to be a horse breeding area where you could put the horses in the back? Is that correct?
No, sir.
No.
I do have agricultural fabric along the sides,
Right,
okay?
right, but there's a sign.
But as far as horse breeding,
But I believe.
no, sir.
Not breeding, stabling. This
Well-
is why this came up. And also, I have a problem of trying to get a horse trailer in there coming off of 190. I think that's very unsafe. I know you know what I'm talking about, because I see this area every day. I live in Lacombe.
Okay,
So with that being said, that's why I went ahead and second the motion to deny.
All right. Any further discussion? Now, I've closed the floor to the public. Okay, it's back to the commission. Mr. Richard.
You did close the floor to the public, but he didn't have an opportunity to do a rebuttal from the other parties, so.
Okay, you're right. You're right. All right, so we will allow you to speak on this.
well, if, I'm new at this, and I don't exactly know how to address the commission, so please bear with me. I was issued a building permit and given an approval for that. And on the building permit, I clearly stated that it was for an accessory barn. When I purchased the property, it had a title restriction on it. It says farm. You all have a copy of that. Now, I understand that you all do not enforce title restrictions, but it is my understanding that they are enforced somewhere by some kind of government body. Also, the neighbors around me, if you look on that plat, you'll notice that their lots are also noted farm. In addition to that, I have a permitted land use application for agricultural activities. That was issued and approved. I also have an occupational license that was granted to me. So I have all of the necessary things, and then, like the other case that came before you, the zoning changed on me. From all of my due diligence, it looked like it was something that was going to fit in place, plug and play. And I've done everything that's been asked of me. And if I'm not mistaken, under the A2 zoning classifications, the residents also have certain agricultural rights. Now, that's because they have a home there. If I put up a home, would I get those rights? Would I have to come before the zoning meeting? So in essence, what the complaints are saying is that we can have those agricultural rights, but do tell you can't. With regards to the trailers, there's two entrances to the property. There's one in the back, which was a service entrance. I haven't used it. I blocked it up because I've been robbed 2 or 3 times, and I wanted to prevent people from coming in there. So that's why it's a very good question, but I do have an answer for it and make it very easy for that. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I inadvertently skipped the rebuttal phase, and the two ladies that spoke, you have an opportunity now to rebut what Mr. Dutel was saying. So if you have anything else to add, please come forward.
I'm still Doris. I understand Mr. Detail is trying to come from. I understand that. When he first came there, I spoke with him while he was clearing his property, and he told me he was going to put a building and he was going to build furniture. Then he was going to put a shop there. Then he told us he was going to put a home there. And then we understand he had a sign there to board horses. Now I understand that he doesn't have none of that there, but a bunch of whatever weeds or whatever that's not cleared up or not taken. And those fences, when he talked about the fence that he have, we have pictures of the fence. You've seen what they look like. It's not that we had anything against him doing anything he wanted to do on the highway, which is commercial. But for him to come and interfere with residential, in other words, I've been living there, as I said, since '73. And I don't know what he's gonna do next, because he doesn't stick with anything he says he's gonna do, other than he starts something and he never finishes it. And we don't know what he's gonna end up doing in my area. And for as for anybody selling lawn, fertilizer, or mud, or whatever it was, there's nobody that I know of in that area that's doing it. If they're doing it, they're going on a job to do it. They're not doing it in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
He stated that there are other people in the area that have farming. There's no farming in that area. There's people who have homes. There is a gentleman in the area that do have a tractor, but that's how he make his living. He hooks up his truck to his tractor and he go on jobs. And then he come home in the evening and he park his tractor trailer at his home. This gentleman don't even have a house there. He want to turn this into God knows what. I still think part of it is furniture because he have this big, giant electrical box on his building. But he don't have anything where he's showing he lives here in St. Tammany Parish. He have things that he want to put up and throw up halfway, but I don't see anything going up like a home, like he care about St. Tammany Parish to live here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Matthews, you had a motion and a second to deny.
Yeah,
You
and I have
another
some more
comment?
questions after Mr.
Okay.
Dutel spoke. Steph, he says he has an occupational license on this property. Do you know anything about that?
I remember I saw the permit that he pulled out. I remember issuing a permit at some point when the property was zoned suburban agricultural. However, I would have to review it. I don't know exactly
Okay, so that
what it
was
is. Or
prior to the rezoning.
correct, yes.
Okay,
yes.
and he says he has a land use permit. Do you know anything what that is?
If I'm not mistaken, he has a copy. If you
Mr.
want to
Dutel,
ask
would
him
you
to
please
bring it
come
up
back
front,
up
I'll
then,
read
please,
it.
sir?
Then
I don't understand what your occupational license and land use permit are about. Would you show those to Helen, please?
Yes, actually, this was issued to him under, after the comprehensive rezoning, I'm sorry. It would allow him to do cultivation of garden crops and a roadside farm stand. So the occupational license that he has is just to allow him to sell his fruits and vegetables from the farm stand.
Okay, and that is a permissible use under administrative permit, I think.
Correct. It's listed as
Under
an- Under
Under the
A2.
A2?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so all of those things, the agricultural things that those permits are things that he could do under A2.
Yes, that's what he applied for, the
Okay.
garden crops and the roadside farm stand.
And does he have to have a home on that piece of property in order for him to engage in these agricultural activities?
No, not to do the garden crops and the roadside farm stand.
Okay, so you were concerned about not being able to do the agricultural things other people could do because you didn't have a home. That's not the case. You don't have to have a home on this piece of property to do the agricultural uses that the other people can do under the A2. You understand that?
No, sir, I don't, because I've been working on this for a little over 4 years now, and I was told by staff, was told by the director, was told by the local councilman that I'd have to come in and get a rural overlay.
To do any agricultural, such as agricultural buildings and structures, cultivation of garden crops, farms, wholesale greenhouse or nurseries, or roadside farm stand. You'd have to have
A
rural overlay to do those?
To do those.
Okay, that's patently wrong, because under A2, those things are all allowed. You don't need a rural overlay to do those things.
Mr. Matthews, according to the conversation I had with Mr. Dutel, it was animals that he wanted to have on the property, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's, I understand that.
And that was the
But
reason for the request.
For animals, he would need the rural overlay. But for these things that he's talking about just now, you don't need a rural overlay for those things. Do you understand that?
Well, it's like saying you can raise chickens, but you can't sell the eggs.
No, sir.
No?
No, not even close.
Okay. What I am trying to do is to utilize the resources that I have.
Okay?
Now, if I build a house, then I'm putting more into the tank.
Okay?
But at that point in time, I think I would be able to use the barn for any kind of animal.
Helen? If he puts a house on a piece of property, can he put any kind of animal?
If there would be a single-family residence on the property, it would allow him to have household agriculture. So it would allow him to have animals, his personal animals, his own pets, as it is defined under household agriculture. However, if he wants to have farm animals, like if he wants to have raised chicken and sell the eggs, then a rural overlay will be necessary. If he wants to have a horse training facility or board horses, then a rural overlay would be required. He can have his own personal horse, has his own pets. However, if it becomes a business, then that's when a rural overlay is required.
And if you'll pardon me, Mr. Matthews, by definition, a farm is considered an enterprise. It's always been that way. It's a commercial endeavor, commerce.
Not necessarily.
Well,
Okay.
We
could
could sit here and
Google it.
argue what you want, but what the rural overlay, in my opinion, is more than this piece of property should have. It's surrounded on 3 sides by A4 residential, and I think what you're talking about is horses and chickens and a full-time farm that I don't think is appropriate.
Ms. Casbon?
Yes, did I understand, is the barn in place, or you
the
want to?
barn is in place.
And
it-
so you're looking to board horses? You wanted to, as part of the use of the barn?
Correct.
Helen, would that be considered commercial adventure? That he would
If he
need-
wants to board horses, he will have to,
come in for an occupation? It's a business within the
Yes, but the rural overlay will be required before it can obtain an occupational license.
Okay. And in that particular area, are there any other, we were talking about, I think the neighbors were saying that there were other things and that you were going to use this barn for? I'm just confused on the particular layout of what you have been doing and what you want to do now. How have you been utilizing this property at this time?
Well, I haven't used it, only to learn the hard way that the uses that I had intended were not permitted, allowed. Whenever I came up with a possible profit-making endeavor, I would follow the law and go get the permit or go get the occupational license. And so,
But you had the license for, you had your occupational license for the fruit stand?
correct.
Did you ever have one there? Have you ever utilized and followed through on that particular venture since you did have the permit to do so?
Correct. We did do that.
You had the fruit stand there?
Yes.
And was it profitable or?
No, it wasn't profitable at the time.
Okay. I just feel like that we're looking at, I know this building's there, don't want to take it out of commerce. I understand what you need is a rural overlay. But I think I concur with Mr. Matthews that because of the surrounding area, that I think we would be putting a commercial adventure in the middle of a residential area. And so,
Anything else, Ms. Casabon? All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to deny the rural overlay under zoning case 1405-040. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of clarification, the motion is to deny. Therefore, a yes vote is to deny.
That's correct.
All right, a yes vote is to deny.
That's
Thank you.
correct. Vogt, was that your question? All right, vote is 10-0. Motion carries to deny. Item 9, zoning case 14-05-041. Existing zoning is A6 multiple family. Proposed zoning is A4A single family residential. It's .24 acres. The petitioner is Randy Breland. Owners Jeff and Pam Breland. Parcel located on the north side of Lakeview Drive, west of Harborview Court, being Lot 73, Eden Isle subdivision. Unit number 2, 278 Lakeview Drive, Slidell, Ward 9, District 13. Staff?
The zoning change is being requested in order to allow for a single-family residence to be constructed on the site. Staff has no objection and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Brelrin?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir. What I'm trying to do is just here to request a rezone from A6 to a A4A for just a simple, 1,700 square foot living home. I don't want any fourplex or any stuff like that anymore.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is anyone else in the audience here on zoning case 14-05-041? Okay. I will close the floor to the public.
Thank
Bring
you.
it back to the commission. Thank you. Mr. Hines.
Mr. Chairman, I move that be approved.
Motion by Mr. Hines to approve zoning case 1405-041. Do I have a second? Second by who? Mr. Richard. Okay. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Ms. Casabon,
Martha, I need a vote.
Mr. Hines,
Mr.
Oh,
Howard?
I'm sorry, wait, I hit the wrong.
Got one more. All right, motion carries 10-0. All right, zoning case 14-05-042, existing zoning's A4. Proposed zoning, A4 single-family residential, proposed zoning PF1 Public Facilities District. It's 2.03 acres. The petitioner's Troy G. Ingram, St. Tammany Fire Protection District Number 1. Owner's Martin A. Smith Jr., parcel located on the northwest corner of Meadows Boulevard and Airport Road, being Lot 22 and part of Lot 21, Homeacre Subdivision, Ward 9, District 11. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed as a planned district with residential uses and conservation areas. Considering that the site is surrounded by residential uses, staff has no objection to the request, and also considering that the permitted uses listed under PF1 would allow for public and institutional uses to serve the area. Note that the site is proposed to be developed with a fire station. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Ingram.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I represent St. Tammany Fire Protection District. We are in the process of we've entered into a purchase agreement to purchase this property, contingent upon it being rezoned to allow for the building and construction of a fire station on the property. And we're requesting approval of the rezoning from A4 Single Family Residential District to PF1 Public Facilities District.
Okay. This is going to give y'all access to some areas where it's not been readily available. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, seconded by Mr. Manella. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zoning case 1405-043, existing zoning's HC3 Highway Commercial District and PBC1 Planned Business Center. Proposed zoning's PBC1 Planned Business Center. It's 30.1348 acres. The petitioner is Will Tregra, AIA Mathis Breyer Architects, owner Chevron USA. Parcels located on the south side of North Park Boulevard, west of Lake Drive, east of Park Place, being parcels B as in boy, VL, 1B as in boy, and Lot 12, North Park Subdivision, Phase 1, Ward 3, District 5. Staff?
A portion of the site is currently developed as a Chevron office complex. The zoning change to PBC1 will allow expansion of the office and supporting uses in a campus-type setting, and staff has no objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Traeger? Good evening, sir.
Hi, I'm Will Traeger with Mathis Breyer Architects, and our address is 201 St. Charles Avenue, New Orleans.
All right. Anything you wish to tell the commission?
No, we worked with the staff, and it was their suggestion that we changed both the existing and new property to PBC1. The primary change that we felt was in Chevron's best interest was that it would allow a 400,000 square foot parking garage as opposed to being limited to a 200,000 square foot building in HC3.
Okay. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the... Yes, ma'am.
Can I just get a... my name is Corey Renfro, and I'm the HOA Board President for North Park Subdivision. And I just wanted to get some clarification as to, there's a new piece of property with this. Is that going to be in North Park 4?
Yes.
Okay. Is that inside the new development and not a piece of property on Park Place, I believe? Huh?
I'll have to explain
Okay.
This is a complex right now. and
Okay.
what you're adding on is behind it. So you have
Okay.
the village right, this is North Parking sign. So
Uh-huh.
basically what you're adding to it is this.
Okay, all right. All right, and y'all just increasing the size of your campus?
Yeah.
Just the parking area or expanding the building itself?
Both.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we need you to fill out a speaker card also, so we have record. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Wow, we got a bunch of lights. Let's see here. Mr. Davis, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea for this area. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion
I'll
by
second.
Mr. Davis to approve, second by?
Me.
Second by Mr. Matthews. Mr. Matthews, you're next.
Just that, I'd like to add to that Chevron has been, and I think will continue to be an excellent corporate citizen of St. Tammany Parish. And I think we should do anything and everything that is reasonable and proper to encourage them to increase their footprint and the jobs that they're going to bring to this parish. And I think this is something we should approve.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Willie.
Just, I guess, have a question of staff. The change in zoning, would that change any of the height restrictions or any of the setbacks related to height restrictions?
It could. Let me pull up the ordinance here.
'Cause I know there was always concern about height in that area with the subdivision
I
behind
mean,
it.
if it allows higher building, there will be larger setback required.
Okay. But what's the difference in the height restrictions?
Well, no building shall exceed 75 feet above the grade.
In the PBC
but
one
it-
or in the HC3?
The PBC one. Now, if a building is taller than 60 feet, then you'll have 65 feet. You have one additional foot setback for every foot higher if you're abutting residential.
And what's the height restriction in HC3?
I will pull it up right now. Yeah. It is all surrounded by HC3 at this time.
Okay.
But here,
Mr. Willie, generally, the concern about the height, particularly in this area, I think has been where there was residential
Right.
either adjacent to it,
Well, it's not too-
and there's no residential.
Maybe not adjacent to, but not too far away, though.
Well,
actually
pretty far
under
away, yeah.
under HC3 it would be a maximum of 100 feet.
Okay.
It'll actually be less.
Actually, no, it's 60 feet, but it would have to be 100 foot from residential. But this parcel is all surrounded by HC3.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Please vote.
May I ask one more question?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the closest point to residential property that their property will come to?
It's further than it is today. The new property is behind,
This
behind the school.
Okay,
And this is all commercial.
okay, okay. I hadn't had a chance to look at this first, okay. I'm good, no, I'm good with that. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Dave, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you. I have another commitment. Mr. Shane, Mr. Manoa is going to take care of the rest of the meeting for me.
Good evening.
Had it happen before.
Reacclimated. Zoning case 14-05-044, existing zoning, highway commercial district H3, proposed zoning I1, industrial district, acreage 3.02 acres, petitioner Jeff Shane, owner the Johnny F. Smith Testamentary Trust, Terra Fernandez Cochran, Kathy Schul Fernandez, and Ronnie Joseph Fernandez. Parcel located on the northwest corner of US Highway 11 and Fricky Road, south of Johnny F. Smith Boulevard, being a portion of Lot 48-A-1, Johnny F. Smith Memorial Business Park, Ward 8, District 14. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan designates the area as commercial infill, which suggests that the area should be developed with new commercial uses compatible with the surrounding area. Considering that the site is surrounded by HC3 zoning, staff does not see any compelling reason to recommend approval and would like to recommend denial. However, I'd like to point out to the commission that the area is mostly undeveloped. All the parcels of land directly surrounding it are undeveloped. And you have some residential in the rear along Fricky Road, and it's also in close proximity to Johnny F. Smith Industrial Park. So staff is not completely opposed to the request. However, we recommend denial because it's all surrounded by HC3.
Mr. Shane?
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington, and I represent the owners and petitioners in this case seeking a new zone of I-1. To give you some background as it relates to why we would request this zone, my client has under contract a build-to-suit opportunity for Caterpillar Corporation to build an approximate 10,000 square foot building where Caterpillar will be a tenant and will engage in the business of selling and leasing Caterpillar-made equipment and other types of equipment that I guess are in that field, if you will. To give you some point of reference as to what the Caterpillar business does, it is very similar in many respects to the Volvo business that's very close to that area and is currently undergoing, I believe, the same zoning change. I'm not sure where they are in the process. But the case is interesting from a couple of perspectives in that why do we need to go from HC3 to I-1? And it's very simply that businesses of this nature have a significant amount of outdoor storage of their inventory. Those can be various types of equipment with the large rubber tires that you don't just roll inside the building each evening when the day's work is over. And looking at the zoning ordinance again this evening as I was listening to the other cases, if you look at the permitted uses in HC3 and you look at the permitted uses in I-1, I think many of us would argue that this truly is a down zone. Again, the history of the site also, it's a former location or site for a used car lot, which wasn't maybe the most pleasing business to the eye. And I'm glad to say that that is, as a result of this change of zoning and new project, that's going to be cleaned up. A couple of things that I appreciate Helen's comments with in supplement to her staff report. A couple of things I'd like to bring to your attention. If you'll take a look at the vicinity map attached to your staff report, I want to make sure that you note a parcel on Fricky Road. This property is located in the northwest intersection of Highway 11, which runs north-south, and Fricky Road, which runs to the west. Notice the I-1 parcel a little further down Fricky Road that you zoned approximately 2 years ago for one of my clients, a matter that I handled. Again, a request to seek I-1 for the storage of, for outdoor storage. It was a school bus and some other earth-moving equipment. The zoning change was necessitated because of those activities. I would also bring to your attention that you may remember in recent months you've handled 2 zoning cases that I have presented to you as it relates to the Johnny F. Smith Memorial Business Park. The proposed Phase 2 had acreage, maybe 10, 12, 14 acres that you zoned from I-1 to I-2. And then most recently, you recommended, and the council has now adopted, the rezoning of the business park from I-1 to I-2. So my point is that although I understand 2025 and I understand the thought of having commercial along Highway 11, this area is really dominant as it relates to industrial zoning. And I think that's the point that staff was trying to make this evening. So I hope that you agree that this is a wonderful opportunity to bring a fine business in, such as Caterpillar, that will run a first-class operation. But because some of their inventory, if you will, requires this outdoor storage component, we respectfully request that you recommend I-1 to the council. Now, if there's any questions, I would be glad to address them now or later.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else from the public that would care to speak? Hearing none, I'll close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners? Mr. Matthews?
Jeff? Yes,
sir.
And maybe staff might be better answer. Is there any restriction on the size or the use of an outdoor storage yard in I-1?
Yes, sir. If you look at 5.2402 subsection 3, it refers first of all, it's got to be associated with a building, and then it also refers to the minimum standards if you're going to do a contractor's yard.
And the only reason I was questioning that on I-2, under permitted use is 20, it says an outdoor storage yard that occupies greater than 10% of the area of the developed site. That doesn't by any way infer that I-1 can only be 10%.
I see what you're referring to in the fact that I-2 says that. I think it's language from Ordinance 523 that was just placed under the I-2. However, under I-1, it does not specifically state if there's a maximum or minimum.
I understand. I just wanted to make sure that there was no inference that I-1 was less than 10 since I-2 is greater. I don't have any problems with this at all, and I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Randolph. Any further comments or questions? Mr. Randolph?
Yeah, I'd like to say that, given the light that this is an industrial park, and Caterpillar would bring in some more industry in the area, and it's clean industry, and we look forward to having that opportunity there.
Good. Thank you for your comments.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Excuse me. Plan review cases. PR 14-05-003, use new office warehouse in addition to existing office warehouse, the corridor, Tammany Trace overlay, zoning, HC2, Highway Commercial District, use size 14,400 square feet, the petitioner, Martin J. Abraham, the owner, Martin J. Abraham, representative, Barry S. Bro, the location, parcel located on the south side of U.S. Highway 190 West, west of Thompson Road, east of Silva Road, being 2371 U.S. Highway 190 West, Slidell, Ward 9, District 11. Staff.
Here in front of you, it's a request for an addition to an existing office warehouse as well as a new office warehouse. As you can see on the revised plan, it meets all the landscaping and setback requirements. Staff would like to recommend approval of the request. However, the petitioner is here making a request for a variance. As you may know, the reason why it is going in front of you is because the Tammany Trace is a planned corridor. And one of the requirements is the facade facing or in the rear of the building be brick, stucco, or wood. However, the applicant would like to request to use vinyl siding instead at this time. So if you, the plan meets all the requirements, however, we have a request for a variance as far as the facade requirements.
Petitioner, please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Barry Bro. I'm representing Martin Abraham, the owner of the property. Looking at the plan for Mr. Abraham's facility, we're adding on we're looking forward to adding on a 14,400 square foot warehouse and storage addition to the property. Mr. Abraham's property is about 150 feet from the edge of the trace. And in between that buffer is nothing but forest and native thicket and ground growth. Coming on the trace, you could barely see the property, but we're trying to conform to what the ordinance is calling for with the facade. And by doing that, we're just asking that in lieu of putting a wood siding and painting it on the back of the building, if we could put a vinyl siding, as you can have the same appeal, the same complement of the building, and kind of conform with I think the ordinance is actually looking for from the rear of the building. So we're just asking to see if we can adhere a vinyl siding to the skin of the building from the manufacturer of the skin of the building in lieu of a wood painted siding.
Thank you, Mr. Bro. Anyone else from the public care to speak? I close it to the public at this time, and I bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
Yes, I have a question. On the existing buildings you have out there now, what is the facade on the back?
It's the manufactured skin of the building. It's a steel metal building.
That includes the dock too as well, or is it open dock?
It's an open dock.
So the actual existing 3 buildings are all metal?
That's correct. And I might say Mr. Abraham's facility is pristine. He takes very good care of it, maintains it, and it's really a nice facility.
So realistically, you're building 3 buildings, but only 2 of them face the trace,
Yes.
right? With
One actually,
building in
the
the
storage
front.
facility, and the other one's an open air dock.
I'll make a motion to approve with the variance.
Motion Pat made.
Get some other lights.
Mr. Willie, second. Excuse me. Mr. Matthews.
Yeah, the original existing buildings,
Calm down.
all have a fascia that faces the trace that is in violation?
The existing buildings are all metal, but were built a decade ago.
Okay, so they were grandfathered in.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Is that correct? Okay. So to require the wood on these would make a change drastically from what is already there and grandfathered in.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would have a different facade on a portion of the building and then the other building.
Yeah, okay, that answers my question.
Mr. Lauren.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
I have a couple questions. One, I'm not saying that this would happen, but we have seen a lot of developers go in where there is this buffer zone. And once the buildings are built, then all of a sudden the buffer zone goes away. What, it's like you're asking us to trust me, we'll leave the buffer zone there.
Yeah.
But once we pass this, tomorrow morning, you could go out and take the buffer zone down.
Well, not necessarily, because
You could thin it out.
Mhm.
You can thin them out now. We've seen it.
well, the buffer zone, 130 feet, does not belong to Mr. Abraham.
Okay. All right, so that would remain. The buffer zone would remain.
That's correct.
The other question is, if you look down, I can't remember in quite a while where the staff had as many
these things must be done, checklist.
This is only on the building, all this is in place. This is
Well, the reason these things must be done is that was our initial submittal.
I'm looking at the one that she handed out tonight, and I assume that's the latest one.
This is just standard comments. The first comment is just to advise the petitioner that before they can obtain occupancy, they will have to provide a revised landscape plan meeting all the required number of trees. And it's just standard comments about the dumpster, about the lighting, that we always put on a staff report.
Helen, the problem I have with it is read the sentence right under staff recommendation. What does it say?
Yes, that's a mistake. I apologize. But we recommend approval.
Okay, because it recommends that it be postponed.
Yes, originally it was recommended to be postponed, and this evening we're changing the
So
recommendation.
I'll come back to it. Do you have any problems with any of these 9 items that are listed here?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, none at all.
Okay, that answers my question.
Mr. Randolph?
Yes, sir. I'm looking at the drawing and the vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
The vinyl that's gonna be used, is it gonna be used for just the new proposed buildings? Or you're going to try to also share some of that beautification with the existing docks as well?
We're just proposing it to the new structure that we're proposing to build.
Thank you.
Ms. Casbon?
I was just going to say that to me, it will be an improvement with the vinyl. New commercial grade vinyls are very durable, and it will enhance. And also, like he said, it's such a buffer between the trace and that it'll enhance the building. So I'll support.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Are there any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any old business before the commission?
Move, we adjourn.
Any new business? Motion to adjourn.